I was just saying a huge thank you to Myron, King and Leanne. That was an awesome conversation. Thank you so much. And I love that kind of parting shot. Just be kind, just be nice, embrace the smiles and embrace people, and just reach out to, you know, other people who are not like you, to kind of just understand a different world than the one that you're in. So thank you, Myron. Thank you, Leanne. Welcome, everyone. As Jessie was saying, I'm Debbie Ellison. I'm the Global Chief Digital Officer of VMLY&R Commerce. I am so excited today to have a discussion with the phenomenal Amelia Hardy, who's the VP of Strategic Community Engagement at Best Buy. We've got so much to talk about today. I'm super excited. 4 key themes that we kind of want to cover off, that we believe are driving business transformation forward, and that will really, I think, set businesses up for the future in the best way. So a changing approach to leadership, what's happening in that space, market innovation, sustainability, and of course, DE&I. We'd love for you to play a part in this conversation. We do want it to be an open forum, so please do ask questions. I'm going to try and do my best as moderator to multitask and include as many questions as we navigate the topic areas. Amelia, thank you so much for joining us today. We are the last, as Jessie was saying, the last in the day, so we've got the best spot. Yeah. Before we get started, I would love for you to kind of introduce yourself to our audience, talk about your extraordinary career and your background, and also your role now at Best Buy.
Yes, thank you so much, Debbie. I'd love to introduce myself. Hello, everyone. My name is Amelia Hardy. I'm the Vice President of Strategic Community Engagement at Best Buy. And my career path has been unconventional. My background is in marketing and business administration. And I've had roles at Fortune 100 companies for the last 2 decades in business development and marketing and new product development and category management and P&L management. But all at the same time, leading with a lens of equity and making that imperative in everything that I do. So over the past 18 months, we all know what has gone on, and I'm in Minneapolis, St. Paul. So in our own backyard, we had the atrocity of the murder of George Floyd and of Dante Wright, and before that, Philando Castile, and many names that deserve to be named. And with that, I pivoted my career into diversity, equity, and inclusion, and really leading strategic initiatives for that and making those goals imperative in our organization at Best Buy. After that 9 months, I turned outward to do more community engagement and external partnerships and sustainability and ESG. So it's been a great ride, I would say, always using the skills of strategy, consumer insights, what people need, with a lens of equity. So that's been my career journey thus far. And like I said, I took a pivot, and many times I've had to take the road that I didn't think I would take, but the path not most traveled, or the path that I didn't think would be traveled, is usually the path that sometimes turns out the best for me. So I'm so happy to be on this path now and doing the work that I'm doing.
Thank you, Amelia. And there's lots of things that you've touched on actually that we are going to pull back in and deep dive into. But one of the things I kind of want to move into the first topic, right? The first theme that we were going to cover off, and that's around leadership. You've done so many roles, and to your point, you've pivoted across many different type of roles in your career, and you've mentioned some of those events that have kind of moved you and pivoted you into more of a space around DE&I and equity. And history does show us that fundamental changes in business often happen at the back of big global events. More so now, we're experiencing, as you well know, than ever before. And what we're seeing are leaders having to seriously pivot, as you were saying, their leadership style to navigate that fast-paced change, societal change and technology landscape. And it's no surprise that there will be long-term implications and effects of everything that's been happening, all the events that you talked to, the pandemic, on global businesses. Can you talk a little bit about what's changed most in your leadership style? I'm focusing on you for the moment, on your leadership style, like these past kind of 18 months as you have made that pivot yourself. And how have you navigated those needs of your own people and also to Best Buy customers?
I'd say over the last 18 months with COVID and racial unrest, we've seen an unprecedented change in people using technology, and that's Best Buy's purpose to enhance people's lives with the use of technology, whether that's from remote working to telemed visits to connections with your family members. That has been the purpose of Best Buy, to provide those services and products to our customers and communities to stay connected in new and different ways. And for me, that's no different. I've been connected in new and different ways, but my focus, I wouldn't say that it's necessarily changed, but I've started to really be hyper-focused on equity and inclusion. And I say that because, again, COVID and racial unrest has laid bare all the inequities that especially BIPOC or people of color are experiencing. And, you know, it's a very diverse world, but when you talk about equity and do people have what they need, the resources, the opportunities to thrive, not only to just survive, but to thrive, I've started to look at that, not just equality, not everybody getting the same thing, but what do we need to do to eliminate that gap and eradicate the gap? And then inclusion. You can have diverse perspectives at the table, but if you don't acknowledge them, if you don't respect them, if people don't feel like they belong or they're valued or heard, then that is all for naught. You don't take advantage of the diversity that you have. So from a leadership perspective, I've really looked at how do I help everyone be their best self? How do I help myself be my best self, my peers, my colleagues, my team members? What are the things that we need to do for our customers and for our employees and for our communities to make it so that the playing field is more level? So I would say, like, I've just been hyper-focused. I don't know if I've changed. I feel like I'm very much still a servant leader and looking for ways to make an impact and difference, but maybe shifted or pivoted a little bit, again, at that word pivot, to focus more so on the equity and inclusion part of it, really the equity part of it right now in the community work that I'm doing. Also, while acknowledging that diversity, you know, is good. That's the first step to get diverse perspectives into the room.
And I think what's really interesting, Amelia, at least what I'm seeing from our own business and from other businesses, is that, you know, our people are demanding that now, right? So to your point, like, the leadership is pivoting, but it's also, there is a pull from our people, there is a pull from our clients to make sure that we are driving that actionable change, right? You and I had kind of spoken about that. It's not just enough to be talking about it or to be creating ERGs, but actually, how are you driving that business transformation that's going to create those spaces that you talk about? So I mean, just to kind of add to that conversation, I think that what I'm loving to see is that not only leaders are changing how they're leading, but actually the people within organizations are now starting to demand a different environment, they're demanding differently from their leaders as well. So I'd love to talk to you a bit more about kind of that actionable change. What are some of the programs and initiatives that, you know, Best Buy, you've seen at Best Buy, or that you've led, that you feel are really making an impact to the business?
Yeah, I mean, we know that employees and customers are saying that we want purpose-driven businesses and organizations. It's not just about making money, but about being aware and having a voice in social issues and making sure, again, that everyone is able to thrive. And so at Best Buy, you know, we're in Minneapolis, St. Paul headquartered, and with the murder of George Floyd, our CEO, Corey Berry, said, we will do better. And what she meant by that is we'll do better for our corporation, for our company, for our employees, for our people, for our customers and our communities, and for our country. And we've done that by really looking at our commitments to our people, making sure that people have training and development, mentors and sponsors. We've also had a task force. I lead an enterprise task force where we take leaders through an immersive experience to be inclusive leaders, to give them the tools that they need to make sure that everyone feels that they're in an equitable space, a psychologically safe space, and have the opportunity to thrive. We're also making sure that we are targeting to have 1 out of 3 new hires be people of color, and also looking at gender in our D&T, or digital and technology space, as well as our field. We're making sure that we keep the talent that we have. So we're looking at retention goals and having retention at parity. We're very active in the community as well. We have teen tech centers that kind of teach and provide safe spaces for kids to learn, to code, to make videos, to sing, to take pictures. We have about 30 of those now, and we're targeting 100. So there are many things that we're doing that I'm a part of, that my colleagues are a part of, that all of Best Buy is a part of, to really give back to the community, to support our employees, and to meet the needs of our customers.
I really love to hear that, Amelia. There's so many things that you and I had spoken about. It's so many programs and initiatives that you are absolutely leading and creating real business impact, as you say, not just for your people, but also for the community and for your customers. One of the things that I'm picking up on, of course, because you're at Best Buy, is that reference to digital and technology, and that moves us into the next theme around kind of innovation. So not just innovation in leadership, but innovation as in technology innovation. And I was going to say, as we emerge from the pandemic, and I think that's a little bit hopeful. I'm dialed in from London, and things are changing really quickly, but we are seeing two different sets of behaviors from brands and from retailers. Those that are about self-preservation, right? And all about kind of defending their share of market that they've had pre-pandemic. But also what we're also seeing is that emergence of businesses and organizations that are innovating their way out of it, whether that's through the introduction of AR, VR, facilitating in-home shopping experiences that drive to direct consumer and e-commerce, using AI to, predict buying trends and analyzing kind of what people are going to be wanting to buy next and how they're going to want to buy it. And all of that, of course, is driven through technology, through digital channels. And if that explosion of, I guess, technology innovation continues, is there a risk that we're losing that human connection, that connection to people, everything that you're talking about around community? Where do you see that play out?
Our purpose at Best Buy is to enrich lives through technology, and that truly means to be a partner with people, to meet them where they're at, to meet their needs. I think when you talk about innovation, it could be innovation in many different ways. Innovation in the way you reach customers, making sure that you reach them where they're at. We've been always focused on omnichannel, but with COVID, we've had to definitely accelerate into more of an online environment and trying different things with stores. All about customer needs and changing customer perspectives, allowing people to shop when and where they want to, where they need to, allowing people to get their products how they want to. You can pick them up at the store. You can go in and pick it up. You can have someone bring it to your car. You can get something same day. You can have something shipped to you. So I think the innovation is also about the shift of the business model to meet the needs and the changing needs of our consumers. And that's what we've been focused on, the customer experience, and making sure that we are delivering on that and making sure our customers have a good experience when shopping with us and have options. So to the way we curate our products, again, our website experience, our experience when you're in our stores, all of that to me can be very innovative in the way that you approach it, and definitely very agile and adaptive. We have to be adaptable, as things are changing.
Completely. And do you see, and I'm sure you'll say yes, but I'd love to explore it, like where are the role of people in all of that? A lot of what you've spoken to quite rightly is, the role of the website, the role of, click and collect, and different ways through technology that we can get products to customers. But where is do you have any thoughts about, the people, that connection that many brands and retailers are maybe forgetting about?
Well, we leaned directly into our blue shirts and our Geek Squad agents. The people in the stores, they're our front line, and they're doing great things every day to service our customers. And that's the first touch point. So when you talk about that human aspect of it, that is where it's at. It's our blue shirts meeting the needs of customers in store. It's our in-home consultants. It's our Geek Squad agents who come in and help you with repairs. So we're very much about the human aspect of it, the human touch of it, the service aspect of it, and meeting our customers. We're not just a website portal. We are very much a comprehensive, collaborative approach to business and our customers and meeting customer needs. From the community side of it, we are teaching kids how to use technology, and that's a very human thing. How do they use technology to get the careers that they need or want to enhance their lives, to support their livelihoods and their family in the future? So to me, that's very human. And then we use technology to eradicate disparities. Telemedicine is a good way that it helps, you know, the accessibility of healthcare. You can monitor patients that are not mobile from their homes. So to me, it's the perfect marriage, if you will, of technology and humanity. It's not one taking over the other, but the use of humans using technology. We're using technology to help, to advance causes, to eradicate disparities. So that's how I think we're approaching it. It's a perfect marriage and an integration of the two.
I really love that. I love that, Amelia, because it goes back to the point you were making around inclusion, and sometimes digital and technology can feel so exclusive, right, to certain groups of people, to certain demographics. So everything that you speak to around, again, like educating the young in this space, or using your blue squad, I think that's what you call them, right? To help.
Blue shirts, yes.
Blue shirts, right? The blue shirts to help.
And the Geek Squad.
Navigate. Like I love that, and I think it's one of the reasons kind of why I kind of entered this space of kind of digital and technology, because I just felt as though if we weren't careful, the industry were going to start to exclude groups of people. And what I love about the explosion of e-commerce and direct to consumer is, you know what, like, it doesn't matter where you come from or what you do, like, you can start your own business. You can start and run, you know, your social channels and set up a direct consumer platform and run your business in a way that actually is equitable, right? Like, you know, is open to different types of people. So that's what I love, is demystifying digital and technology for all. And I think everything that you had spoken to kind of really speaks to that as well, which I really love. Like, it's a passion point of mine. So I'm going to shush before I get on a soapbox.
Oh, please keep going. Drop in some lessons for us.
Yeah, like I you know, like, as I said, like I do feel really passionate about it, because I think it can feel quite scary, this space of kind of digital and technology for people, you know, and there are certain, I guess, assumptions about who can and cannot get involved in technology, who can and cannot get involved in the digital space. And I really feel like it is my passion point to break those barriers down, to say, actually, no, you know, you can be a mum and you can look after your kids, and you can still run a business from home, and you can still set up, you know, an e-commerce site, you can still learn how to run your social channels, you know. And again, for older people, you know, that assumption that older people don't know, you know, technology. And I'm like, well, they absolutely do. So, you know, all the initiatives that you've spoken to, and making sure, you know, in my role, making sure that, you know, all of those things, innovations, technology innovations, can be really understood by people, because it isn't really that complicated, and making that accessible to all, I think, loops back into everything that you were saying also around kind of the inclusion space, right? How do we make sure that people feel comfortable, not just in their work environment, but also in how they access the work environment, how they access data and technology also. So I am going to, I'm going to.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's about technology as an enabler, and not as something that's scary or is going to take over, but how does it enable us to do the things that we want to do, to service our customers, to serve our community, to eradicate the disparities, to make things more accessible and you know, and equitable to people. So I think it really is about focusing on technology as an enabler for me.
Yeah, I completely agree. And some of the things that we have, you know, some of the topics that we've already spoken about around people's change in values, right? As we're, you know, as we're in the midst of the pandemic, you know, off the back of some of the events that have happened, like we are seeing a huge shift in what people value, right? And we'll talk about kind of DE&I in a second and kind of, you know, what you're doing in that space. But one of the areas that we're seeing that is in the space of sustainability, right? So, of course, you know, we're trying to get through the pandemic, but people haven't forgotten that there is a climate crisis, and they're also driving and wanting, you know, some answers around the sustainability agenda. And, you know, most global brands are carving out their own response. We're helping a lot of global brands do that and defining what their commitment should be, authentically what their commitment should be, reflecting that consumer demand. But, you know, we've seen some statistics that there is that shift for consumers and people wanting to see brands do better in this space. And I'd love to hear about what is Best Buy doing around marketing, you know, business transformation in the sustainability space, and again, some of the programs and initiatives that you're driving to kind of meet that consumer demand.
We are totally all in on ESG, our environment and social and governance practices. You know, it is a way that we do business. We have a target to be net zero by 2040, and we are cutting emissions. We're changing over our Geek Squad fleet to hybrid models. We're looking at different ways of using energy, so solar and wind. We're looking at water and waste reduction, our packaging. We're looking at ways we can recycle more. We are the #1 recycler of electronics, you know, in the United States. So there are many things that we're doing. It's a way of business for us. And we are always looking at how do we make sure, like our CEO, Corey Berry, says she wants to leave the world a better place than what it was when she came in. And that is the purpose of the purpose of our vision and how we do business. So it is looking at what is our footprint, what is the impact of that footprint, and what can we do to make sure that it's a positive impact at the end of the day versus negative. It affects us all. I think we all see what is happening with climate change and other things. So it's a business imperative for us. And, you know, I would like to say that it's been a business imperative for a while. It's not a trendy thing for us, but it is a way that we do business, a way that we think about our business model.
And Amelia, do you think there are challenges in communicating that to your customers? Like, one of the, you know, we're embarking on some global research, albeit with Gen Zers, around their shifting attitudes towards sustainability and DE&I, and without revealing too much on the results of that research, they are expecting brands to help them, you know, realize their aspirations for a more inclusive world, a more sustainable world. I'd love to hear your thoughts on how that and where that's being communicated, because it's really important that your customers see that too, and whether you see that there are any challenges in driving that communication with them.
I think, you know, social and cause marketing is always an interesting thing. You want to do it in an authentic way, in a way that shows that you really do care, and not a way to exploit in any way. So what I would say about Best Buy and our efforts, we talk about what we're doing. I mean, we're kind of humble. We call it the Minnesota Nice aspect of it. We talk about it when it's relevant to talk about it to our customers and our communities. But there are, like Earth Day, we will communicate the things that we're doing, you know, again, our recycling program and how our customers can recycle their electronics. So we're talking about it in that way, from, you know, how is it going to help you? How can you participate in it? How can you be a part of it? And especially with our employees, like, how do we as employees continue to drive the things on our corporate campus and what we do for our own personal footprint? So that's more how we see it. And I think it's just a tricky thing of how you communicate. We do more, I would think, probably organically. You know, if we're out and about in the community and we're doing interviews or talking to people, or through our public relations team, but always in a way that's going to be helpful and beneficial to the community and our customers, and hopefully never in a braggadocious way or a way that anyone would feel that we're not authentic, because we're very much authentic and sold on needing to continue to make sure that our footprint is not a negative impact, it's a positive impact.
And the fact, Amelia, that you mentioned that, this isn't a recent response that you've been leading and Best Buy has been leading, but actually this has been a longer term journey for you guys, I think adds credibility and authenticity to that message, right? I just felt like it was super interesting that, as I said, like when we had kind of done that research with Gen Zers, they were wanting more from brands to kind of communicate that, because they hadn't researched, they don't go out and actively search that information in the large, which was a real surprise to me. But as I said, I don't want to give too much away from that research, but I do think it's really interesting to see how brands and retailers are communicating those messages around, sustainability to get that message out to their consumers, their customers, around all the great things that they're doing. So we've spoken a lot. We've spoken about leadership, we've spoken about innovation, we've spoken about sustainability. I do want to loop back into something that you touched on that, I know is so important to both of us, around kind of diversity, inclusion and equity. And you'd mentioned it when you did your intro, that the murder of George Floyd and subsequent events pivoted you into the D&I space, right? And you were quoted, and I hope you don't mind because I'm going to read this word for word, in a thought piece that was published. The community is more accepting of corporations being in this type of work and purpose driven, which I absolutely agree with, by the way. You were energized, or I was energized and inspired by people from multiple backgrounds, communities and companies getting involved. That made me optimistic about being able to come into the role to drive change, building upon all the good work that the I&D team had started. I'd love for you to go back to that and talk through a bit more of that DE&I journey, and maybe also lean into some of the challenges and some of the frustrations that you might have had and pivoted, because there'll be people that will be listening to this who are only just starting their journey, right? And kind of would want to learn from all the great things that you've been doing. So I'd love to hear more about that, Amelia.
I think that the DEI journey is my life. It's a lived experience for me. My parents grew up in the segregated South and have often told me stories of the open discrimination, very transparent and blatant discrimination that they grew up with, that their parents faced, that my grandparents faced. And so that was always top of mind to me, those stories and what they dealt with. And then I grew up in a pretty segregated suburb of Kansas City. And my experience from a young age was also people saying you're different, your hair is different, why is one side of your hand light and the other is dark? All of that, or you're smart for a Black girl. So it is my lived experience. It is not only a journey that I'm in for just academics or because it is the right thing to do, and it is, but it's because I have lived it. My family has lived it. My kids live it. And so that's why I'm so passionate about it. And from an early age, when I realized that I was different, people saw me as different, and that different wasn't always good for them. Right? They saw that as not equal. So from a very young age, I started in middle school, a diversity club. I worked with our local NAACP on making sure that the school district was being equitable with its Black, Hispanic, Latinx, and Indigenous students. All of that has been, again, my lived experience and my passion, and followed that through high school and into attending a historically Black college and university in New Orleans, always knowing that I want to make a change. I want to change that story, that narrative for my kids, for their kids. And my ancestors have given much, many have given much, but I feel that that's what I owe and what I need to do, but also I live it, and it is my life, it is my burden every day. because of that, I didn't necessarily want to get into a diversity and equity and inclusion position because it was something that I already did. It was something that I was already passionate about. It's something that I already lived. And so it was hard for me at first to think that I would do that full time because I was already doing it full time. So how do you do something double full time? I don't know. But what I've come to realize during the murder, after the murder of George Floyd, living in Minneapolis, St. Paul, there was, we went to George Floyd Square. I took my oldest daughter to a protest, and I looked around and said, wow, this is a beautiful thing, because we were one of the very few Black people there. There were so many different allies there of different races, of different ethnicities, of different beliefs. And in that moment, I said, I'm very hopeful. I'm very hopeful for the change that is to come, because these people, not necessarily be their lived experience, but they're empathizing and they're taking on the call to do something different. And with that, again, the pivot in my thinking of what better than now to align my passion, my purpose, my lived experience with my profession. And so that brings me to where I am today. But I do it because I think it's the right thing to do. I think it's my purpose. I think it's the impact that I need to make in this world. I think it is something that I'm doing for future generations. And I truly believe that Best Buy, the leadership at Best Buy, the employees at Best Buy, they believe in it and they want to do better and they want to make a difference. So I couldn't imagine a better place to be doing that work now, and also in the community of Minneapolis, St. Paul, and our greater community. It's much needed. And, the work is a lot, and sometimes the workers are few, but it's something I'm dedicated to. My team is dedicated to, the company is dedicated to. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I just wanted to say, like, it is, and we've talked about this, it doesn't shut off for us. It is our life. And I want to make it so that other people have better experience than my grandparents, than my parents, and that I've had, and in some instances my kids have had. I unfortunately say that my kids have had some experiences in their school, and I did not think I'd be talking about this with my own kids, but maybe they won't have to do the same thing with their kids. There's always the hope that the next generation will continue to get better, and we will continue to be more accepting of one another.
And you're right, Amelia, you and I think, bonded over this conversation, right, as a pre-chat to this one, because it's the same thing that drives me, right? Everyone will say, you're a global CDO, what are you doing talking about DE&I? And it's exactly as you say, it's like sharing those lived experiences. Our conversation isn't over yet, but it's important to have these conversations, to share that lived experience, right? And I think for me especially, the experiences that my children still have, and you touched upon that, the doors that are shut because of the color of their skin, for me, it breaks your heart as a mother, right? Because it's something that you can't change for them, you can't fix for them. And so, if any, for the people that's dialed into this call today, I really implore you to use your influence, use the power that you have within the organization, like Amelia is doing, like I am trying to do, to really set up those programs, set up those initiatives to drive education, to drive action, to make a change. Because to Amelia's point, like, we don't want our children to have the same conversation and trying to create a more equitable world for their children. Like, we want this to be done now. Like, we want, I will share with you something personal. My daughter had a really awful experience, and she said, she's 25 years old, Amelia, and she said, I don't have the fight in me, and I don't have it in me anymore. And I was just like, it's heartbreaking to hear that. And so I think for all of us, be that ally, use your influence. I keep saying it, use the power, whatever power that you have to make that change in your organization, to make that change in your workplace, in your community, and add to that fight, help that fight. It's so important, because it is life-changing. And I think, to everything, Amelia, you were saying, it's not a tick box. We're not doing this for some CSR award or credit. We're doing this because we fundamentally believe that this is what needs to happen to drive transformation for our communities, for our people, for our business. And that is absolutely, you know, when we're talking about business transformation, for me, I fundamentally believe and I'm passionate that the D&I space is the space that's going to keep also business future fit. We have to reflect the people that we serve, the communities that we serve, and that's becoming ever more so diverse. And we have to create the spaces and places that people feel comfortable in, that they can, to Amelia's point, thrive in, not just survive in, but thrive in, and really deliver against their potential. So again, like it's something that I'm hugely passionate about, hugely emotional about. And I think there are a lot of people that think, you know, these things don't happen nowadays, but they do. And the murder of George Floyd showed that. And the microaggressions that happen day in, day out still happen. So we've really got to lean in, and we've really got to do everything that we can to change that.
I agree. And that's the power of allies and sponsors and those activists, those who are in it with you, because it is very exhausting work for those who live it and then those who are allies. And alone, we cannot do it. We cannot make the impact solely by ourselves, but collectively, you know, the more that we get people to lean into it and make it an imperative, that's how we start to drive the larger sustainable change. We need this to be sustainable, not a moment in time, but a movement. And that is what it's all about. So that the fight is not for naught, that it continues to drive that sustainable change from moment to moment, from day to day, from year to year, month to month, from year to year, from generation to generation. And that is my hope. So tell your daughter to hang in there. There are many that are in the fight with her and are supporting her. And we are moving forward. We have no choice but to move forward.
Exactly that. So I'm going to use the word again, Amelia. I'm going to pivot slightly, because I do want to go back into a space around the business, because everything that I've been talking about around D&I, around sustainability, absolutely. I genuinely believe is a business imperative as well as a people imperative, an inclusion imperative. And I do talk a lot about inclusion kind of being that business imperative, because we need to represent the people that we're serving, right? The communities that we're serving. And I want to move into this space of commerce, and more we're seeing brands, platforms, retailers really trying to keep customers in their ecosystem. And of course, that has absolutely been the case, especially over the last 18 to 24 months, whereas you had quite rightly said, we're moving into this digital first ecosystem, right? And there's lots more that we can do to serve people and communities. I'd like maybe for you to talk about what are the touch points, what are the channels that have really resonated with your customers, that's really working for them? How have you kept your customers engaged over the last 18 to 24 months? And I'd love also for you to maybe share your own personal opinion about some other brands that have been doing it well as well, which are the ones that you admire. Because as I said, all of this is around creating more personalized, more relevant commerce experiences when we're talking about sustainability and D&I. But let's talk about channels and touch points. What is working for Best Buy at the moment?
Question. Like I said, we've always leaned into our omni-channel presence. So anywhere we want to meet our customers where they're at, where they're shopping, whether that's online or in store. We want to make sure that they have the best experience. I think we've pivoted very quickly to our e-commerce platform, to but also like our blue shirts, our Geek Squad agents, our in-home consultants, that has always worked well for us. That is an integral part of our business model, to offer that white glove, high touch service, to be there when you have a question, I think is, and to be able to adjust, right? If you're talking to someone face-to-face in store, you can ask them questions to help them get to the right product or a right service. I think we do that well. I think we look at our customer needs, We walk through the buying process with them, and we also offer service after they buy a product from us. So I think our holistic approach to what we call a customer obsessed culture is working well for us. And then many kudos go to like our blue shirts, our Geek Squad agents, all those who are in the field, our customer experience team, our marketing teams, like everyone, supply chain, everyone is coming together to be customer obsessed and meet our customers where they're at. And I think that works. I think it works when you do things that work for your customers, understand their needs, and then deliver upon that.
I love that, Amelia. And I've got the $1 million question, which is, you're doing that super successfully. Where are the opportunities to grow? What do you see for Best Buy in 2022 and beyond? Where is the next frontier for you guys?
I mean, I think that we have to understand our changing demographics of our customers, understand those needs, and continue to meet them where they're at. That could be everything from how we curate products and services to how we show up online and social or whatnot. I mean, for Best Buy, we're going to continue to be agile and vigilant, quickly adapting to our customer needs and changing environments. We're going to be purpose-driven as we have before, like I said, leaving the world a better place than in which we came into it, and making sure we are making a positive impact. We're going to center and focus on DEI as imperative to our business model. And most of all, we're going to take care of ourselves, each other, our customers, and communities. So that's our future. That's our way forward, to be people obsessed, whether that's our employees, whether that's our communities, whether that's our customers. I think that is what it is. That is the way forward.
Exactly. You can't go wrong with that strategy. I see Jesse's popped up. So Jesse, I'm just going to wrap up because I'm sure that's our signal. Amelia, I just want to thank you so much for your time today. It's just been such an honor to be connected and to have the conversation we've had today. And it's been brilliant to hear about all the fantastic things that you and Best Buy are doing to deliver that business transformation and to your point, staying relevant with today's consumers. And there's so many things that I've learned personally around kind of the themes that we've covered off: leadership, sustainability, DE&I, innovation. And I kind of would like to ask you one last question. And given those themes that we have covered off, is there one key takeout that you'd like our audience to have, or one thing to think about that they should be thinking about as they embrace 2022?
I would just say that, we've had many famous people say it, but be the change you want to see. Everybody can be people obsessed, can be obsessed about your employees, your peers, your community, your customers. I think we have to put humanity first, as you said, and be kind and look for ways to be allies and move forward in a positive way. So that's what I would say. I think that centers on everything.